Good morning, campers. Welcome to Radio Camp Halfblood, a Percy Jackson read-along podcast, and I am your host, Zach.
And I'm B.
And this week, a god bought us some cheeseburgers. Ooh.
I wish a god bought me some cheeseburgers. I wish somebody bought me some cheeseburgers.
I wish, like, 5 gods bought me cheeseburgers, because we can all go to Five Guys.
Yeah. I saw where you were going, and I went with you.
So this week, we read Chapter 15, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers.
Wonder what god that is.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, last week was Guy Fieri, but, you know.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, imagine if that was who he was cast as, like, in the movie.
Oh, no. I would, see, Arlie Ermy, God rest his soul.
I don't know who that is.
He's the Jill Sargent in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, yeah, right. He just passed away, didn't he?
Yeah. Actually, you know who I see? I kind of see, Josh Brolin playing Ares.
Oh, I can kind of see that, too. Yeah, there's a couple people.
What did you think of this chapter this week, B?
I liked it. It was sort of just like a little snapshot. Nothing too crazy happened.
I think a lot happened. I don't know which chapter you're reading.
Well, I mean, I guess compared to, jumping off of the St. Louis Arch and stuff, it's not as dramatic as the last one.
Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, they are, super, SOL, because they've gotten off the train. They're now in Denver. So they're getting closer to California. Just close.
Vaguely. They're kind of in the West now. Ish.
Yes, they're in the West. And now they have no money. They smell awful because they haven't showered since leaving camp. And they're flat broke. And the first thing they do is they need to contact Creon because they should tell him what's going on.
Yeah, so this is their first experience with iris messages. We've been referencing that for a few episodes now. And now we finally know what an iris message is. Which is, I guess it happens in different ways, but the way that they send an iris message in this chapter is they go to a car wash and they talk into a spigot, basically. A shower
how an
head.
iris message works is Iris is the god of rainbows, and as long as you can produce a rainbow, you can use the iron message or iris message.
Yeah, so they go to talk to Chiron. But he does not answer, for there is some stuff going down at Camp Halfblood.
It looks like new rainbow, who dis?
Yeah, Luke picks up because Chiron is preoccupied with all the campers who are kind of feuding about Zeus versus Poseidon, and they're all taking sides. And it's a whole thing.
Yeah, so a little civil war's brewing.
Which, come on, you're children. Can't you just calm down for a second?
No, because their fathers and mothers dictate their lives, so thus they need to pick a side.
Yeah, I guess that's true. They're so invested. They've never even met these parents, really. Or spent much time with them.
The thing that's always could not wrap my head around is, the idea of, I don't know if there's a parent version of nationalism, but that's what kind of it is. It's you're very prideful.
Paternalism? No, that's not it.
There's probably some word for it, but it's the version of nationalism, but to a parent or to a god or...
Yeah, I know that, there must be a word for, loyalty to your family, basically. So they have family loyalty despite the fact that, their family structure isn't exactly traditional.
Kind of like the Hatfields and the McCoys, in a sense.
Yeah, it's just this long-running feud that, the kids, they don't even really have any stake in it, necessarily. There's no reason for them to be so invested in all this stuff, but they are, just because of who their parents are.
Yeah, it's almost like tradition dictates their livelihood.
Yeah. They kind of touch on that, earlier in the book, just, talking about how, the different children of different gods have, sort of a dynamic and, the way they act towards other children of different gods.
Yeah, no, it's also, again, their genetics dictate their own personality. If you're a son of Poseidon, you have, this certain way you think, whereas if you're a son or daughter of Ares, you are more of an aggressive, brutish person.
Yep.
I'm sure, some genetics dictate some personality traits, but not, by a lot.
Yeah, I would say so, too. So it's kind of more they're just, feeding into the stereotype of whatever they're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to put it. And while they're talking to Luke, he's telling them that, the Civil War's brooding, where Poseidon and Zeus are now, the kids are not picking sides, such as on Poseidon's side, there is Ares, Apollo, Hermes.
One other one. Hold on. So Aphrodite, Ares, Apollo are backing Poseidon. Athena is backing Zeus.
Yeah, so that's kind of like an interesting dynamic. You have both Athena with Annabeth and Poseidon with Percy.
And they're working together, so they're kind of bucking the trend of, like, completely aligning with what their parents think.
Yes, they're less for the Horde and more for the Alliance.
Wait, is that a World of Warcraft reference?
If I said yes, would you still think I'm a good friend?
Well, I got the reference, so what does that say about me? Yeah, I've played World of Warcraft maybe twice in my life, so... And it nearly broke my computer trying to download it.
But as they're talking to Luke, they're getting more sinister information as well. Such as, we kind of start to learn more about Annabeth's past more, and Grover's past. Before they're about to leave, Luke was the one that came up with that. He saw Hades during the winter solstice, and... Also, before the Shimmer leaves because they're running out of money from the little spigot. And tell Grover it'll be better this time. No one's going to get turned into pine trees if he just... And then the mist cuts out. Whoop. Because he thinks of Annabeth also as a sister because they've known each other for so long.
Wait, didn't we, hear about the pine tree stuff already, though?
Yes.
They mentioned that earlier, yeah.
We did.
Yeah, I don't think it was revealed here. It was revealed, a little while ago when they're kind of talking about Grover's past with Annabeth.
Yes, we're getting more backstory about Annabeth and Grover and Luke and a certain particular pine tree.
So wait, isn't the pine tree... Hold on a second. Now I can't remember what the pine tree is.
The pine tree was once a person. That's all I'm going to say.
I think... No, wait, but they already talked about that, but I can't remember which person the pine tree was.
Thalia.
Yeah, okay, yes, that's what I thought. Or Talia, or whatever. However you pronounce it.
Talia, Thalia. I say Thalia.
I mean, who knows? Ancient Greek isn't pronounced any specific way.
But yeah, so we're getting more backstory, which I find interesting. And now that, they finished the message, hopefully it's going to be relayed back to Creon, even with this weird civil war brewing. I decide we're going to hop and go to Flavortown and go to this diner.
If you're counting, that's 3 diners, drive-ins, and dives references. So yeah, they go to this diner.
And they have no money. They're like, I'm surprised they didn't just dine and dash.
Yeah, I don't know really why they would go.
But then again, they probably look like really dirty, smelly kids. So I would imagine.
So they already look super suspicious. And then this weird biker guy shows up.
Oh, do you want to give the description of this biker?
The guy on the bike would have made pro wrestlers run for mama. He was dressed in a red muscle shirt and black jeans and a black leather duster with a hunting knife strapped to his thigh. He wore red wraparound shades, and he had the cruelest, most brutal face I had ever seen. Handsome, I guess, but wicked, with only oily black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred with many fights. The weird thing was, I felt like I'd seen his face somewhere before. Should I go? Or I think that's mostly the description of him, but yeah.
Yeah, well, not like we're going to spoil anything, because this is the chapter for this week. We're introduced to Ares, god of war.
Yeah, Ares, god of biking, I guess. It totally makes sense that he would look like a biker. That totally fits with the characterization.
I mean, also it's the gods kind of mix and match into more of American personas.
Right, yeah, they're contextualized.
Obviously, Ares would be like a biker.
Yeah, I wonder who would Poseidon be. I guess a sailor.
Then again, it's the weird misconception because not all bikers are bad.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of bikers are really nice people.
Oh, I love bikers.
They're just very aggressive. Did I ever tell you this story about the time that people thought that my dad was the dude from American Chopper?
Oh, the main dad?
The guy with the mustache.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget his name. Whatever. My dad also used to watch American Chopper, by the way.
I used to watch American Chopper all the time, and also Monster Garage with Jesse James.
Yeah, one time my dad surprised all of us, and he had rented a limo for us to go and see the tree lighting in Rockefeller Center. So we were sitting in the back of this limo, and the window was rolled down, and we're just driving through New York City, and these people on the street see my dad in the back of a motorcycle. At the time, he had one of those... I don't really know how to describe it. One of those biker mustaches, basically, where it's like it just like
like a
goes down the
handlebar
side,
mustache?
like a handlebar mustache. Well, I guess handlebar mustaches kind of curl up, but like you know what I mean? Yeah, like a biker mustache that the guy from American Chopper has. So someone on the street was like, "That's the dude from the motorcycle show." And my dad, because he was the biggest dork in the whole world, instead of correcting the person, was like, "You got it, brother," and like pretended to be the guy. He was impersonating him. And that person to this day probably thinks that they saw the guy from the motorcycle show.
You know, that's probably fine. They'll have like a fun little story to tell.
Yeah, it wasn't him. My dad kind of looked like him, but like, not really.
Biking gangs is like a misconception, but then again, if you live in like Central California, don't talk to bikers because you'll most likely be murdered.
Yeah, because you're talking to what, like the Hells Angels or something?
Oh yeah. That's like the interesting thing is like there's clans of bikers.
Oh yeah, they're also like super crazy racist bikers, so it's kind of a crapshoot as to whether you're gonna get a good one or not.
Yeah, and especially like we look at Ares, who I don't know may or may not be the biggest dirtbag on this universe.
Yeah, I mean he's like an aggressive jerk, especially in this scene when you're introduced to him.
Yeah, like he sits down at their table and pretty much like orders them all their food. He gives the waitress fake money or completely useless currency.
Yeah, he's a jerk, basically. He's like, it's on me. Yeah, I would feel like pretty threatened if someone did that.
Well, also he has like this power as well as like if you're near him, you become super aggressive, or you just want to punch him in the face. Well, I mean, to be fair, that's not really a superpower. That's just his being.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where Percy pretty much wants to shove his sword into his face.
Well, yeah, he even says, like, when finally Ares kind of reveals that he knows who Percy is, he's like, you're an old seaweeds kid, huh? He's like, I should have been surprised or scared, but instead I felt like I was looking at my stepdad, Gabe. I wanted to rip this guy's head off.
So aggressive.
I mean, like, I get it. It's kind of... I've been there where it's like, when someone kind of, like, scary and aggressive, like, is acting like they're doing you a favor, and it's like, please don't talk to me. You're very scary.
I mean, some people just don't realize they're super scary like that, but then some people, that's just their whole persona.
Right. I mean, he's leaning into it, right? Like, that. There's a reason that he looks like a biker is because he wants to intimidate people.
Well, I mean, that's also kind of like, what other things could he look like to be super intimidating? There's not really much. Because it's kind of like, if you're the god of war, obviously you're going to be like, you're going to have like this huge bravado and be like super like macho as well as like wanting to be an outlaw.
I mean, but he's also like just super muscular and like physically imposing, so I feel like you don't necessarily need to also dress that way to...
What do you want him to dress like, the village people?
He kind of is dressed like one of the village people, though. Isn't there a biker village person?
I think there is a biker village person.
Pretty sure. Maybe I'm mistaken. There were a lot of village people.
In a different universe, he actually is the biker in the village people.
That would be a real plot twist, actually.
I don't know. It's like an interesting concept about that I like is that, you know, the gods kind of like shape into American personas like this. Again, it's a lot like American gods where they fit into the environment.
They're like contextualized into whatever stereotype, like American stereotype would make sense for whichever god they are.
Yeah, like for Ares, it's like Easy Rider type of biker who probably has like the world's biggest American flag in the back of his motorcycle. That's like a safety hazard for anyone. And of course he drives like a Harley and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like the only option for someone like that. I feel like any kind of other motorcycle is like offensive to bikers, right? Except for like what? I guess Indian is the only other brand that you would...
No, there's also BMW. That's not true. There's German bikes and also Asian bikes.
Yeah, but like bikers normally don't tend to like those bikes though. Like they don't like
American-made
like
loud
Yamaha
bikes
or something like that. Yeah, like American, because the whole thing is the Americana romanticization of being a biker. It has a lot to do with America. So I feel like they don't normally like foreign-made bikes.
More like foreign bikes are more for like city use, whereas being on the open road is on a chopper.
Going on Route 66 and...
Going to diners threatening kids.
Yeah, one of those like Harley Davidson like novelty t-shirts or whatever.
I always remember, have you ever seen the I think it's a truck commercial where it's like the American founding fathers in trucks.
No, I don't think so.
I gotta find it. It's like George Washington in a pickup truck hunting down the British.
Yeah, that's America right there.
Good old Ares is here, and he's a big old jerk face. He like antagonizes literally everyone in this place. He like has like a shotgun. He threatens everybody. Except he's there for a specific reason, to talk to Percy. Which, I don't know, it's like, I think Percy kind of reacts the proper way, and he just does not want to deal with this person whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of has a scheme, basically, and he wants to use Percy to do his scheme. And I guess that's, in return, he will pay for their burger or whatever, which seems like not a total fair trade, in my opinion, but whatever.
Well, no, that's not true, because he'll give him information about his mom.
Oh, that's true, too.
And of course, that's Percy's bargaining chip. It's his Achilles heel, is his mom.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, like he can be emotionally manipulated that way.
You're also dealing with the god of war who literally wrote the book on war.
There's no sense in, like, arguing with him either, because it's like, okay, well then he's just gonna destroy you.
Yeah, because he can probably turn you into, like, ash. Because the scariest thing is, like, he takes off his sunglasses and he just has nuclear explosions for eye sockets. He's, like, Michael Bay's favorite poster child.
He's just an explosion in a person.
If you think about it, that means he's super hot-headed. And, of course, like, also the way he kind of talks about his children is kind of not cool.
Yeah, no, he's just a general... He's a jerk. He doesn't care about anything.
Like, he lets his kids pick their own fights, and, he's like the deadbeat dad that just drives off on a motorcycle.
I mean, arguably, most of the gods are kind of deadbeat, so there's that.
Yeah, that is true, and Ares needs them to run, like, a very little errand. There's a water park up the road, and he forgot his shield.
Yeah, just a very little errand.
Nothing bad will befall them at all.
Definitely not.
That's kind of like where they find we're going to go on this stupid quest just because we need money. We need to, like, get to California, and I'd like to know more about my mom. Annabeth Grover and Percy walk down the road to Waterworld, or Water Fun Park, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. So, yeah. Wally World.
It reminds me of when I lived in New Mexico, we had, before I left, we had this pretty much like the same type of water park. It was like the coolest place. I want to say it was called Splash Zone, or was it was like Raging Rapids or something. But it was just something like this where it's just it became abandoned. I think someone actually drowned there. That's why it closed down. It's like that weird aesthetic of like the oasis in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, only there's no water.
Yeah, there's no water, so they go in the place. They pretty much break into the place, no problem. And about the first thing she sees is a souvenir place, and she just, like, robs it for all it's got with...
I mean, fair. They are, like, starving and have no money, so...
And they smelled bad, and they want fresh clothes.
Makes sense.
I think it's interesting because we have, like, this little mini quest that they do, but also we get a little more infotainment on, actually, Aphrodite and Hephaestus, because I guess...
Yeah, there's a love triangle going on. So Aphrodite's husband is Hephaestus, but her boyfriend is Ares? That's how it works, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's not a good thing. It's bad. I mean, it just basically serves to prove, like, the whole point that, like, these gods are, like, fallible, and they do things that humans do, like, have infidelity, yeah, between their husbands or whatever.
As well as Hephaestus knows about this, and he doesn't want to do anything about it except humiliate Ares.
Yeah. He wants to catch them in the act and then broadcast it to Mount Olympus.
Yes, but the first time he caught them in the act, he literally caught them in a net.
That's like it actually in the myth that they catch them in a net.
Yes, I would imagine so. It's kind of like... That's what I love about, like, Rick Riordan. Like, he'll do, like, throw these... Like, pretty much, like, he'll have, like, throwaway lines. But really, they're just, like, go research this myth to know more about what happened.
Yeah, the backstory is actually all existing in the myth lore.
Which I like that more. I like that it's not like the myths are happening in real time. It's more like they've already happened, and it's kind of like history repeating itself just a little bit.
Yeah, that like they're kind of just bound to have this dynamic, but it's already happened a million times.
Which I like that more because a lot of times, a lot of people, they know the Greek myths. Sometimes, like these ones, I kind of remember it, but not really. But I do remember the one about, because they talk about Hephaestus and how, like, when he was born, Zeus being a good dad and stuff, like, broke his face. And, like, he became, like, real ugly.
Being a good dad.
Yeah, being a totally good dad.
Zeus doesn't seem like a good dad. And maybe I'm just biased because I've been watching God of War Let's Plays, but doesn't seem like the nicest dude.
Well, that's God of War. This is Percy Jackson. This is the Diet Coke of God of War.
Yeah, basically.
Boy.
It's the intro.
Yeah, because then right after God of War 4, they go right into Norse mythology. So.
Yeah, they go into all sorts of different mythologies.
Which, I mean, that's like a good topic to talk about, and just how, like, you can have totally, like, you can have it, like, cutesy-wootsy like this, or you can have it, like, brutally, like, terrible, like God of War, and how it's, like, this is real life, and then this is hardcore mythology.
Even though Percy Jackson is, like, made for a young audience, there's still some, like, harsh, weird, messed up stuff that they refer to. I think they do very, like, carefully edit some of, like, the darker, weird things out of mythology. I wouldn't even necessarily know, because I don't, like, have a background in mythology, but, like, I know that some of the things...
I mean, if this was, like, edited, they wouldn't have had Aphrodite cheating on Hephaestus.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, like, some, like, sketchy things going on
and they
still.
wouldn't talk about how Hephaestus was basically abused as a little boy. They wouldn't talk about all these things, especially, like, if we go back with Medusa and, like, humanizing her. Like, they totally humanize her in this book, as well as they humanize a lot of people. They kind of show both that gods are not perfect beings, but also they don't sugarcoat. Rick Riordan does not sugarcoat, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, even though that you would say that something like God of War is more grim dark or whatever.
Well, I mean, they're apples and oranges, because, I mean, you rip people's heads off and use them as weapons in God of War. Here you don't do... Actually, I mean,
kinda.
Kinda, but I guess more it's, like, viscerally horrifying in God of War.
Yeah, because it's also, like, a visual medium, too, so it's different. Like, the description is different than, like, actually seeing it.
I mean, Percy has murdered several people already, so...
Yeah, he's murdered several people, like, and also, like, I just think about, like, how they made a movie about it. It's like, how do they portray, like, cutting a head off of a Medusa, you know?
Comedically? I don't remember. I just remember, like, the stupider parts of that movie.
Yeah, so most of it.
Oh, and all of it. I remember the whole movie. I want my $1.50 back.
You only spent $1.50 on it?
Yeah, I was on eBay. I spent on the DVD.
Yeah. Isn't it already on Netflix, though?
I don't know. I want Netflix to pay me then.
Pay me to watch this garbage movie, because otherwise it's a waste of my time. You should pay me to compensate the wasted time.
I mean, also, if you look at other mediums, like, movies will use... Even the remake of Clash of the Titans is not a good portrayal. But even though that also doesn't sugarcoat anything in that movie. Because you still have, like, the myth of Perseus and his mom are thrown into a casket and thrown into the water to drown.
Yeah, mythology's messed up is what we're saying. So even, like, the sort of the cutesiest version of it is going to be kind of dark.
Well, I mean, most stories, if you really think about it and you actually kind of focus on into it, a lot of stories are pretty messed up. We can look at Holes that we just reviewed. I'll be on Patreon soon. But it's like, even that story is a little messed up with how they handle certain situations.
Oh, yeah. There's, like, some creepy stuff that the adults do.
So it's not like... Mythology isn't just one thing. There's multiple points. I think that's what makes an engaging story. You need to have, like, a little bit of messed upness to make it, like...
Well, yeah. I mean, it's what makes a good children's book, too, is, like... You can tell that Rick Riordan isn't trying to, like, completely censor all the dark, weird parts of these myths in order to teach children. Because then you're not teaching children. Then you're creating this own kind of fiction thing that doesn't have any tension or drama or anything like that. So
yeah, no, that's where, like, I like the infotainment aspect of having, you know, you have this information, but it's still entertaining. It's not like Rick Riordan could have just made, like, a book on mythology and just made it like, here's the myth. Yada, yada, yada. Actually, he does have 2 books. I haven't read them yet. There's one called Greek Gods, and then there's another one called Greek Heroes, and, like, it's Percy Jackson or someone explaining, like, those actual myths. Oh,
so it's, like, more of a history book and less of, like, a YA.
I haven't read it yet. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have read it. I haven't read it. I think it's, like, a mixture of, like, how Rick Riordan normally writes and just history in general.
Yeah, I feel like he would probably do a good job writing about history, because, I mean, just here he's, like, pretty engaging, but also he has, like, the structure of a narrative, which makes you more invested in general in this kind of stuff than if it was just sort of dryly listing the stuff that happened.
Yeah, especially, like, there's books, like, I think the best version of dryly listing informational facts is the Magic Treehouse books.
Oh, yeah, that's super didactic. That's, like... the go-to didactic book series, because it's just like...
And then we were on the Titanic on Tuesday.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, okay, we're in the Civil War now. Let's talk about the difference between the Confederacy and the Union, and, like, really very basic stuff like that. I did like the Magic Treehouse books. I feel like maybe we should do that as a Patreon episode.
I would
might be
love to
good.
just review all the Magic Treehouse books.
Or oh god, what's the other one that I always read? The Boxcar Children.
Oh, the Boxcar Children.
I read so many of those.
There's so many of them. Like at the store that I normally go to buy my books, they have a bunch of those, and also they have a bunch of like Sweet Valley High and a bunch of these other books that
Yeah,
are
I
like,
follow the Nostalgic Bookshelf, I think is on Twitter.
oh yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, and they review all of those kind of like weird serialized chapter books from like the early 90s, like late 80s.
So if you ever want more Sweet Valley High books, I can get you pretty much a whole complete set.
Yeah, just like get me a crate and send it on over. I don't think I would have space for all of those books. There's like so many in those series.
It's like an interesting thing, especially with like Percy Jackson now. I'm like, look, I just turn my head less than 90 degrees and I can just see all my books. And like, I need to actually like move books around because Rick Riordan keeps writing so many, like, it's almost like that where it's like this weird serialized world. It's like the Riordan literary cinematic universe.
Yeah, he's a very prolific dude, and then also he has the Rick Riordan Presents.
And then I turn my head the left less than 90 degrees and I see like I have 4 shelves of just R.L. Stein books.
Yeah. R.L. Stein is another one who like wrote so much. I mean, at least Lemony Snicket stopped at 13, you know? I mean, he has a few other like tertiary stuff like Beatrice Letters and whatever.
But then Daniel Handler has his own supplemental material, but it's like the weird body of work.
Yeah, it's not like as crazy as that though. Yeah, I've never been able to keep up with book series like that.
I don't know. I think so. I mean, it's crazy in a different way.
Yeah, well, it's more self-contained, right? Like something like the Goosebumps series is like you could feasibly go on forever writing Goosebumps books because they're not always connected to a book before that.
With Lemony Snicket, there's so much more like surreal, like Dadaism that you could totally write more series of books.
Yeah, probably. But like, you know, like he kind of just like, oh, well, I wrapped it up here because we can't just keep telling the story forever. In a weird way, he's like throwing shade at those people who keep writing a lot of books. He's like, all right, well, I mean, stories have to end somewhere, kind of. It's like the gist of the last
Same
book.
as with writing prequels. He did that. I mean, I guess it's kind of like the idea of like you write so much and you don't like the ending. You just want them to write another book. Cough, cough, cursed child, cough, cough.
I don't know who you're talking about, actually. Cursed Child. Yes, okay. I thought you said Chris Child, and I'm like, who's Chris Child? Now, yeah, okay, yeah. I know who you're talking about now.
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, cough, cough. And how that is single-handedly the worst. And I don't care. People are like, well, it's a play. You have to see it. No, I read plays all the time. It is a terrible play. Period. End of discussion. Play. Like, I can say that with like venomous confidence.
They don't suddenly become good when you see it in person.
Yeah, no. I mean, the special effects are going to be really cool if I were to go see it, but it's still a terrible plot.
Yeah, a lot of weird retconning stuff going on.
Well, she didn't even write it. She like outsourced it to another person who knew nothing of Harry Potter.
Yeah, whoops. Because there's definitely a lack of writers who have been influenced and know a lot about Harry Potter. Not. You could probably easily find someone who knows everything there is to know about Harry Potter, who like writes plays.
It's like we can look at these authors and it just shows like very fine print, like size 2.2, and it's just like a war memorial of people that could write better than that one person.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, like Harry Potter is such a thing. Like it's one of those fandoms that just cannot die, you know, even when there's like not that much content being made. Like,
so the interesting thing about J.K. Rowling though is like she'll produce stuff on Pottermore and it's almost if a new book is just dropped. Like people will go insane over it.
Yeah, exactly, because it's so embedded in like nostalgia and like the culture of our generation and stuff. Like people are going to be following Harry Potter for the rest of their lives. There's just like there's so much of like a spin-off of a culture that happened around Harry Potter. I mean, like there's literally like Wizard Rock. Like there are still bands that play and tour just based on the fact that they wrote songs about Harry Potter. There's multiple bands in that genre.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Rick Riordan, we'll go back to Percy Jackson and how it's almost not like the second-hand version of Harry Potter because I consider them both equals.
Yeah, I would say they're just as good as far as writing styles.
But I can see where people might think that, you know, Percy Jackson might be a ripoff of Harry Potter, but it's like...
Yeah, I could see that.
Percy Jackson has 2 movies, a musical. It doesn't have a theme park ride yet, but I'm sure that's somewhere.
Yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has just to do with getting the rights, but I might like Percy Jackson better, though it's hard to tell. I've only read one Harry Potter book, and thus far I've only read, 15 chapters or whatever of Percy Jackson.
Yeah, but it's like the interesting thing about Percy Jackson compared to J.K. Rowling is that mythology spans the entire world. It connects us. And you can only write so much about Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's true, because it's kind of like a small insular thing. Except for, I guess, she eventually writes whatever the Fantastic Beasts stuff and how wizarding exists in America, too, and, weirdly appropriates Native American stuff. But that's, a whole other can of worms.
Hey, no, that wasn't her fault. People kept asking her to do it, and she's like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That was actually, I would defend that.
Yeah, that was people. I mean, that's the thing is, there's so many writers out there who people are, begging them to make more content. And they just don't, because they're like, all right, that's the end of the story. But I feel like J.K. Rowling is just one of those people who she's just, really swayed by that kind of stuff, especially because there's just such, a large fandom based on people who just want that content all the time.
So I guess I could go into the whole diatribe about J.K. Rowling. She has the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle effect, where she just doesn't... She wants to write her own things, but her entire...
But she can't.
She can't. She's tried. She had to write under a pen name.
Yeah, a casual vacancy or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
she also wrote under a pen name, and when they found out, they pretty much... No one bought her books anymore. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did the exact same thing, and it bit him in the butt. And then it's fine, I'll bring...
It's kind of a hard thing to be a part of something so ubiquitous and popular that you have to follow that up somehow. And the only way that's accepted by this fandom that you've built is to continue that same story that you built your name on.
It's kind of like George Lucas in Star Wars a little bit. Sometimes you just have to hand it off. You just say, I don't want to do this anymore. Here, other author, just take it.
What author do you think should take on the Harry Potter universe and just let J.K. Rowling stop?
It would have to be someone that I feel can handle the source material but it also, here's the problem though. I can't give a definite answer for that because I would rather have someone that's a nobody rather than a somebody.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Because if you give it to someone I'm just gonna use a random person in fantasy because we'll just lump Harry Potter in fantasy a little bit here. I wouldn't give it to someone like Patrick Rothfuss or Brandon Sanderson. I wouldn't give it to those people because...
Yeah, they have their own thing. Because then it would become their own brand. They have their own style of writing and stuff.
Same as with Rick Riordan. I'm interested to read the other books that are in Rick Riordan Presents because they're in his style, but they're not written by him.
Yeah, I wonder how he does that, how he teaches people to write sort of in his style.
Well, I mean, it's very simple. It's kind of so what we've seen so far is it's Rick Riordan has he does pretty much 3 jokes. He does witty observation, hip references, and then he also tries to blend in weird euphemisms a little bit.
Yeah, doublespeak, I guess.
Yeah, he does these things that kids will enjoy. And I would imagine it comes from observing kids for, being a teacher and doing all these things. But also, with mythology, there's so much crazy mythology stuff. It's so pretty easy to incorporate it, I would consider, into a children's narrative. You just have to add, twists to it.
Riordan is kind of lucky in that sense, is, he has so much to derive from. I mean, you can even talk about J.K. Rowling and how she does use, existing mythological and, fantasy stuff that's, from other...
Well, that's true, but also, her background was in... Her major was classics in college.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I feel
Which, if you read the first Harry Potter book, it has a lot of themes of Greek mythology, from the centaurs to Cerberus.
Yeah, there's centaurs, Cerberus, there's...
the Cloak of Invisibility.
Yeah, exactly. There's tons of stuff like that, not to mention just, the hero's journey in general is from myths.
It's always, the most confident thing to say is, write what you know. That's what J.K. Rowling did. She wrote what she knew. Rick Riordan does the exact same thing, especially as we're looking at this diner. What is more American than being in a diner with cheeseburgers, french fries, chocolate shakes, and talking to the god of war as a biker?
Who's a biker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way he blends that. I mean, I guess it's... We keep using J.K. Rowling as, a touchstone, but it's true, the way she, blends wizard stuff with British culture. It's we're blending mythological stuff with American culture, which is kind of nice because I feel sometimes there isn't a lot of fantasy to be had with Americana. Like, a lot of people prefer to use something like the UK or like other countries because they're like, oh, those are older and more interesting, so they have like a more storied history. But Americana is interesting in its own way.
I think Americana is more interesting because I don't like using the saying a lot, but I consider it the melting pot of the world.
It doesn't have a homogenous culture.
No, because you can blend in so many different themes, cultures, and, characteristics of other people into Americana.
I mean, like, this story wouldn't work in any other country, really.
Hello there, I'm Percy Jackson, and today we went to a tea shop.
Well, like, first of all, England is too small for a road trip movie to be super compelling, because they would drive a couple hours and they would get there.
And it's like, it'd just be like, Percy Jackson has to get to France, we'll just hop on the tube.
Yeah, we'll hop on exactly. The super fast train or whatever. Yeah, it's like...
Oh, we're there.
The thing about America is it's so big and it's so, like, tribal in the way that different states have their own culture. I mean, like, down to the neighborhood. I mean, like, growing up so close to New York City, like, the difference between, like, the Bronx and, like, even just within something like the Bronx, where it's just like, oh, over here this is like where all of like the Irish immigrants live, and over here is like Arthur Avenue, and this is where like all the Italian immigrants live. Like, it's like down to like the minutia of like very specific little things. Not to say that there isn't like different cultural influences in like other countries, but it's like not as like crazy specific.
America is this interesting thing. I call it like most of Europe just evicted all these people, and all those people ended up in the United States, and they became people. They actually, were able to be the people they wanted to be rather than where they were. So then you get all these, big ideas of, all these people being really proud to be an American, but also proud to be the heritage that they are as well.
Yeah, you don't see that so much in like other places too, where it's like people in America always like identify themselves as where they're from and also American. It's like, I'm Irish American, I'm German American, like people.
The way that Rick Riordan writes is that not only does he humanize people in this way, but he also, humanizes God figures to the point of where it's not that they're not special, but you can see how they cannot be special.
Or they're like fallible. They have their own flaws and stuff.
Which I like that, but if you look at books like, let's just use Harry Potter today, because today's just Harry Potter Day.
Today's Harry Potter Day. Sometimes it is, isn't it?
If you look at like people like Snape, it's like, oh, he's just a great character. Like, not.
Is he? Is he now?
Like, because someone said it to you, like in a post on Tumblr once, he's a great character. Or people like, I think Dumbledore is one of the worst characters of all time.
Yeah, he's pretty irresponsible.
I mean, I consider Dumbledore to be not a good character. He's just really mean and bitter, and like he uses kids as children's soldiers. And you can look at like, I consider like Ron Weasley and Samwise from Lord of the Rings to be some of the greatest characters ever written, because they're so broken, but yet they're so loyal at the same time.
Those are my favorite kinds of characters. Those are two of my favorite.
Frodo in Lord of the Rings fails his mission completely. Like, he gives into the ring's temptation. Yeah, the only reason why he succeeds is because of Sam lifting him up to Mount Doom, and then because of the infallibleness and greed consumed by Sméagol and Gollum, the ring actually get destroyed because it was its own greed that was its own downfall.
Me and Jess are considering dressing up as Sam and Frodo for Halloween.
No, can I be Bilbo?
Sure, you could be Bilbo. You could be my uncle. Is that what he is to Frodo? I don't remember.
He's
how
Uncle
they're related.
Bilbo.
Yeah.
Great Uncle Bilbo.
Because when my hair grows out, it gets super Frodo-y.
But yeah, no, it's like, same as with here, it's like you have great characters like Grover, and you have great characters like Percy and Annabeth, who are deeply flawed individuals. They're not perfect in any shape or form.
Yeah, even if they do have mythological backstories.
Yeah, and like so going back to the story, I guess, because we just had this interesting diatribe.
Well, that's what we're here for, I guess.
Is that we have, they go into this water park, it's completely, abandoned. And of course, the shield and stuff is in the tunnel of love.
I've never seen a real tunnel of love. It's one of those things.
They don't exist.
Because, like, I feel like so many people wouldn't want to go on it because it's, like, embarrassing or whatever. I feel like I saw that in so many TV shows, like Hey Arnold or whatever, just, like...
I think also, like, the people have, like, these fantasies of it because it's, like, the spooky, scary house, like, at theme parks. And amusement parks.
Okay, scary houses at theme parks are never scary.
Well, they're not supposed. They're scary for basic people.
For like 2-year-olds, maybe, but they're just like sort of, you're on like a little track and there's a lot of black light painting.
But like Tunnel of Love is more of, I would consider it more of like a Coney Island, like you build it up. It's like, I mean, we really started getting log flume rides in the 70s because of Bud Hurlbut.
Wait, what about log flume rides?
The first log flume ride was in the 60s I think... No, the second one was at Knott's. The first one was in Texas. Yeah. How I know this?
You know a lot about theme parks. That makes sense.
I mean, I guess this is I can bring up this argument now. I mean, there are different characteristics of different types of dark rides. People that don't know what a dark ride is
a ride that's in the dark.
Is a ride in the dark. Examples: Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, The Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh God, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. What the heck?
I love Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
It's such a crazy ride.
Yeah, you die and you go to hell.
You die and you go to hell. What the heck? I mean, to be fair, Wind in the Willows is approximately that bizarre, so Kenneth Grahame is kind of out there. Oh, what if we read Wind in the Willows as a bonus episode?
I've never read Wind in the Willows.
I had to read it for my children's lit class.
I feel like it'd be a really weird book to like read now.
Oh, it is super weird.
Like I feel like it's as weird as like Alice in Wonderland without people
Yeah, and it's not quite as surreal, but yeah, it's also like very not even subtly kind of racist too, where it's just like, oh, you can't trust those quotes stoats and foxes. It's like, I know what you're talking about. That's a euphemism is what you're using.
But it's like the idea of like the dark ride. I'm sure like in the 40s and the 50s they were a big thing, but I don't know, it's like a weird thing. I'm sure there's still like tunnels of love in places, but it's not something that's prevalent.
Well, because I feel like people would be embarrassed to go into one, but yeah. Yeah, this weird water park that has like a lot of hilarious titles for their attractions. Ankle Biter Island, Head Over Wedgie, and Dude, Where's My Swimsuit?
Dude!
Was that a reference to Dude, Where's My Car?
I'm pretty sure it probably was.
Oh my god, I bet that movie came out around the time that this was published.
No, Dude, Where's My Car was like late 90s. Or early 2000s.
Okay, hold on. Let me Google that. That was such like
Ashton
a weird
Kutcher
cultural touchstone.
is in that movie.
But like, I think he is, yeah.
So they would have had to have been before 98.
People reference that movie all the time. I don't
exactly
even really know what happens in it. In 2000?
Yeah, because Ashton Kutcher's in it, and he didn't start acting until that 70s show in 1998.
Well, there you go. Resident Ashton Kutcher biographer over here.
I just like that 70s show. So they go in the Tunnel of Love, and of course there's like really weird cupids, and they find the shield in the only boat that's there, and they pick it up, and oh no, it's a trap!
Yeah, could have seen that coming. Otherwise they wouldn't have like enlisted children to do this. It was like a tripwire that he touches when he tries to get the shield.
And then they explode! Dun dun dun. No, that's not what happened.
No, it doesn't explode. That would be a very quick end to this. And then they explode and die.
No, it turns out that Hephaestus knew that was going to happen because Ares and good old Aphrodite, they go on these little smooching adventures in like way like out of the way places, such as an abandoned water park, because it's so romantic. Then again, I can shut my face because I've had a date in a graveyard before, so.
Wow, that's like real, like early 2000s like goth aesthetic is having a date in a graveyard.
Oh yeah.
It was like, wasn't it like National Goth Day like yesterday or something?
Yeah, it was National Goth Day yesterday.
It was pretty great. People were posting all their old pictures of when they were in their goth phase. Did you have a goth phase?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't quite have one because I didn't like the sensation of wearing like eyeliner or anything.
The interesting thing is I know a lot of people that are still goth, and they age gracefully.
Oh yeah, it's coming back, I think.
Well, actually, I didn't have a goth phase. I had just had like a heavy metal punk phase.
Yeah, I had like a phase where I just wore the same Green Day sweatshirt every day. I don't know what that phase is called. Where I just wore a lot of like My Chemical Romance t-shirts.
That's called the pre-emo revolution.
Yeah, I was just emo mostly. Yeah, I was insufferable.
Your favorite part is just waking up when September ends.
Actually, I do like waking up when September ends because my birthday is September 30th. As is my sister's, because that's how twins work.
I don't know. For me, it was like growing up, I listened to a lot of K-Rock, which is like our famous Southern California radio station. I can just turn on that station and every song is still the same. They still play a lot of Pearl Jam. They still play a lot of...
I like Pearl Jam.
I like Pearl Jam.
They're pretty good.
Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, MIA,
I like
Weezer.
Eddie Vedder's ukulele album.
Of course, the Cupids attack, and they have like helmets that have cameras on them.
Yeah, it's like a weird booby trap, so like they're filming them, and it's just like a weird thing that Hephaestus sets up to like catch Ares in the act.
And of course, the most scary part is that there's mechanical spiders.
Yeah, weird metal spiders, and then like Annabeth starts to freak out because she doesn't like spiders.
Yeah, she's like almost as if she's arachnophobic. It's still a spider. It's like the weird Harry Potter parallel where Ron Weasley doesn't like spiders and Annabeth doesn't like spiders.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, there's always like one scaredy cat person.
I love spiders. Spiders are so adorable.
You and Jess are the same like that. You both really like spiders.
I would love to have like a pet tarantula so I could put like a little leash on it and like walk it around.
I don't like spiders. They have too many eyes. Too many legs. It's too many.
No, it's not. It's just
I don't
enough.
enjoy it. No, it's too many.
No, it's not.
I don't want it in my home.
I want all your spiders in your home.
No, why in my home? You can have them. You can take my spiders. Thank you. I don't. You could take my spiders. I'm good.
I'm just gonna come to your house one day with just a pet tarantula and be like, here, this is for you.
No, that's why. No. Oh my god, this is like the my brother and me bit, isn't it? It's like the Ranchos. King Rancho.
I'm gonna make sure that B is the good old like monarch of the spiders.
I don't want to be the monarch of the spiders. Spiders can do their own thing. They can leave me alone. I would rather not.
I just think of when I think of spiders, I think of, have you ever seen Lost in Space with Gary Oldman?
I have not.
In that movie, Gary Oldman starts turning into a spider.
No, what? Why?
Because he gets bit by weird hybrid spiders. It's the
Okay, can we stop talking about spiders? It's stressing me out.
I'm so sorry, everyone, for stressing out about spiders. But
I'm the Ron Weasley of this situation.
yeah, so they escape from the spiders and stuff because Percy uses his waterbending powers to break a pipe filled with water, even though I'm pretty sure there shouldn't be water in this water park because they forget to pay their water bills.
He like beckons the water through the pipe, basically, right? Because I mean, it's connected to something that's connected to water, so he just like finds it somehow.
The water pipe's connected to the main line. The main line's connected to the sewer system. The sewer system's connected to the sink.
That's how it works, right?
I think so. I don't know. I'm not a civil engineer.
My cousin is. Let's call him up.
Percy beckons hither water to come, and it spews them out, and they almost get squashed by the end of the tunnel because, surprise, surprise, it's boarded up.
Yeah, so they're just trapped.
So Percy starts freaking out, and Annabeth like uses like her brain. Annabeth basically just calculates when they need to jump so they can go over safely. Unfortunately, she's still freaked out because of the spiders, so she misses her calculations just a little bit.
I mean, fair. So she's basically the Hermione and the Ron in this situation because she's both smart and afraid of spiders.
And they are almost to be smashed into pieces when Grover uses his magical shoes to fly them over.
Magical shoes.
So now they have the shield, and they're really pissed.
Used, basically. As bait.
Yeah, as bait. And they walk away into the sunset because now Percy has to have a peace of mind with the war god.
Yeah, I bet that'll go great.
You want to know what the next chapter is called?
Yeah, I have it right here, actually. We take a zebra to Vegas.
Oh.
Do you know what I love in nature documentaries when British people pronounce zebras as zebras?
The zebra.
And then the zebra on the savannah is looking for food.
Who's your favorite person that narrates that? I think Stephen Fry's really good.
Oh yeah, Stephen Fry's really good. Who else?
I'm about to say David Beckham, but that's not the person. David Attenborough.
Yes, I was going to say David Attenborough.
David Beckham could not do a nature documentary.
No, he shouldn't have. Have you seen... Okay, Joshua showed me this YouTube channel. Have you seen Brave Wilderness? It is the best. I love that YouTube channel.
Have you seen the one of like Snoop Dogg like narrating over nature documentaries?
Yes, there's them boys. I love it. He has a show with Martha Stewart, and I love every minute of it. It's so good. There's like a clip from that show where Snoop Dogg is just like, out of the two of us, which one of us do you think went to prison? And it was Martha. Yeah, she's a crazy, interesting person. She's a really weird.
Oh, Martha Stewart, didn't she get like hit by lightning like 6 times?
Yeah, I told this. Yeah, she's just a cryptid of a person.
So what do you think is going to happen with the zebra and the Vegas?
They're gonna ride a zebra to Vegas. Where are they gonna get a zebra? Probably a zoo. Probably gonna go to a zoo and steal a zebra.
And now we're getting closer to my house because my sister lives in Vegas. So maybe I might just drive to Vegas next week and be like, so this is where we are.
And pick up a zebra.
I'm going to call it Stripes. Do you remember the movie Racing Stripes?
I do. Weirdly enough. I don't know why. It's not like, in the canon. It's not exactly a Criterion Collection kind of movie, but I think I had the DVD for Racing Stripes. I don't know why.
I have the DVD for another racehorse movie called Hot to Trot. It's about basically like a stockbroker who gets advice from a horse that talks to him.
What?
Yeah, this is a movie from the 80s.
Why does the horse know? So it's basically like Ratatouille, but instead of cooking, it's the stock market, and instead of a rat, it's a horse.
Yep, of course.
Why does the horse know about the stock market?
Because it's a smart horse. But it's not voiced by Christian Shaw, so...
Kristen Shaw's a horse.
I want to say, John Candy actually voices the horse.
John Candy? That must have been a while ago then, because he passed away.
Yeah, this was the 80s. It was 88.
Yeah. What? Who wrote that? And then someone was like, yep, this has to be made. I saw Cool Runnings pretty recently. I kind of love that. I kind of love that movie. It's really good. I love John Candy. He's great.
John Candy, God rest his soul. I miss him, and he was so good in everything that he was in.
Yeah. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. I haven't seen Spaceballs in a long time. What's the other one that I really love with him? The vacation one where they go sailing. I forget the name of that one.
Uncle Eddie's Summer Vacation.
Definitely not that. Hold on a sec.
Crazy Uncle Buck.
Oh, Uncle Buck. Uncle Buck is the best. That's my favorite John Candy movie. I love that movie so much.
I love John Hughes. God rest both of their souls.
Yeah, it's sad. Uncle Buck is so good. If you haven't, literally, this is a PSA. If you haven't seen Uncle Buck, you have to go and watch it.
I've also seen, weird movies with John Candy. Do you know a movie called Nothing But Trouble?
I don't think so.
If I showed it to you, you would not believe it's a real movie, and that Dan Aykroyd, even though he's a crazy man, is more crazy.
Oh, by the way, the movie I was thinking of was Summer Rental, which is another John Candy movie where he goes sailing.
So, B, what did you think of this chapter?
I like this chapter. It was interesting. I want to see what happens next, how they confront Ares. I'm kind of annoyed that they're just getting even more involved in the dumb interpersonal stuff going on between all of the gods, instead of just moving forward with their quest. But I guess that's the whole point, is they keep having sort of stuff that sidelines them in one way or another.
So the one thing that I love about this is we're getting more different dynamics of the United States, and they're middle. Actually, Colorado really isn't middle America.
Yeah,
but,
it's west. Yeah.
But you still have the idea of this is a road trip. They're at their lowest point right now. When
I guess they were in middle America when they were in St. Louis, because that's exactly almost in the middle of the country.
Oh no, we're in Wichita, Kansas, which is dead center of the United States. The exact dead center.
Yeah.
How I know that, there's a movie called King Kung Fu where there's a King Kong that knows Kung Fu and he climbs up, I think, the Holiday Inn.
Why do you know so many deeply bizarre movies?
Yeah, look it up. I like that. And I think also it's we get more of a sense of this is the first time they actually meet a god that is not Dionysus, and he's also a jerk.
Yeah, there's a lot of gods that are jerks.
We're going to meet more gods that are nicer, but for the most part, most gods are jerks because they have really big inflated egos.
Well, because they have the powers of a god, but they don't have the infallible nature of the way that some people would think of gods. So they have all of this ability to do whatever they want, and they kind of don't have to deal with the consequences, and then they have their own selfish motivations for wanting to do something.
Well, that also, and having they once were worshipped by millions of people, and now they're not.
Yeah, because they're old gods.
Which is such an interestingly weird concept to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to have the bitter god that's it's almost like a washed up rock star.
Yeah, actually, Sarah's stepdad was a washed-up rock star, and I can confirm that that's exactly what they're like. Yeah, it's true. He was blackballed by Yoko Ono.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, the whole story of him is crazy. Yeah, he toured with John Lennon's band and then in England, and then he ate a lot of, I guess, red meat when he was there, because then like a few decades later he got mad cow disease from having meat when he was on tour in England. Yeah. Yep, and he was like all bitter that he wasn't famous anymore. Well, because Yoko Ono was like, yeah, he's a jerk. You shouldn't work with him. So then he couldn't get work anymore. So he had like this weird bitter rivalry with Yoko Ono.
I'm pretty sure like Yoko Ono's like 4'0", and like this guy sounds like he's like 6 foot monster.
I don't think he was like super tall. Yeah, I guess he was kind of like gangly and thin, but yeah. And then he died of mad cow disease. Weird guy.
The end.
It's weird because you could like, look up his name and there's like people online being like, yeah, he was a great guitarist, whatever, like thinking he was like a really great, interesting guy. But then Sarah's just like, he wasn't the best to be around. It's kind of insufferable.
So B, did you get any messages this week?
I did. Right before we started recording today, I actually got a message on Tumblr. I've been getting more Tumblr messages about Camp Halfblood lately. So I got a message from Tumblr user Musty Waffle Grabber. You know how it
I like this person.
Yeah. Tumblr URLs, they're just kind of non sequiturs.
Well, I mean, most of the times they're like made in like middle school or high school.
Yeah, that's true also. Yeah, I've had my Tumblr for like, oh god, how long has it been?
Let's see. I think I got mine freshman year. Yeah, just about 7 years.
Yeah, something like that. A long time. Hey, I really love your Radio Camp Halfblood podcast. It really got me into podcasts, so thank you. Also, sorry for the random message. I don't know what it is, but I feel like a lot of messages always end with like, sorry for the message, but you really shouldn't apologize. It's very nice, and I always appreciate messages.
No one has to apologize. Like, we've gotten people that have emailed us like, hey, this might be like a waste of an email. None of the stuff you send us is a waste of an email because you took the time to send us a message. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate every message we get. It's really sweet. Like, you took your time out of the day.
Like, sometimes we won't answer messages on the show. We'll just reply to them because some of them, we've already talked about on the show. So, we can give the time to reply to them.
Sometimes it's a message we've already answered, or it's like something that would be too long to get on the show. Like there's a couple of reasons we might not read it. Or in the case of the email sent to Zach on the official email, sometimes they're spoilery in some ways and would kind of.
So I have to like purposely like redact them a little bit.
Yeah, you like black out some of the message, and you're like, it's like, hey, Zack and B, I really like your show. Redacted for your own good, and then just like the very end. Anyway, thanks, and I'm like, okay. Thank you. I'm sure you had a lot of interesting things to say.
But yeah, so I mean, this is like, we're trying to do this show to be both fun and informative, as well as, a fresh take on the series, because it could easily just be me and B just reading these books and then talking about them. And where would the fun be with having the journey be to destination?
Yeah.
Same as with, we actually enjoy being corrected a little bit because it helps our show, because I don't consider me an expert in everything or anything.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert in this. Like, I'm just a shot in the dark.
I'm not. So, like, if we say something that's wrong, you could totally call us out on it. And, as long as you can give us, the right information, we'll totally relay it back.
Yeah, and it always is like a prompt for an interesting conversation if we get something wrong or whatever. And also sometimes I'm like, again, I have really limited knowledge of what's going on in the series. So if I have a question that's like later answered in the series, that might be a thing. So that's like vaguely spoilery. So I might be just saying things like, that doesn't make sense, or what's going to happen with that? And like, that may eventually come to fruition and be explained later. But I don't know that because I'm reading this for the first time. So kind of going into it blind.
Yeah, same as with, it really does put into a perspective a much more rounded sense of this podcast, because like I said, we could just be huge fans of this, but what type of engaging content would we possibly be able to give with that? Because we would skip important things, because we already know them.
Well, yeah, because I have like an outside perspective, so stuff that jumps out to me might not jump out to someone who's reading it for like the billionth time, because they just like know it like the back of their hand, so they might not notice things because it's just like, oh, of course that happens.
Yeah, because as I was reading this chapter and several chapters, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this happened in this chapter. I thought that was later on in the series or something. I'm like, oh yeah.
I feel like that does happen in general with books that you read when you're young. You kind of you have like the gestalt of what happens, but not totally the details. I definitely feel like it was that way with Unfortunate Events for me. I mean, I've only really read the series in total twice. Yeah, I know that you read it regularly, but I'm like not the kind of person.
I read it yearly now, so
I'm not the kind of person who rereads series. It's just like, no, I like to read books that I haven't read yet. But yeah, rereading it for Unfortunate Associates, it was interesting because it's like a lesson in like nostalgia and memory. Like, how much do you remember from certain books? And it's weird because in a way, I mean, I read the first 3 Unfortunate Events books longer ago, but I feel like I remember those more viscerally. While when I started reading like the later books, I was reading like really quickly, so I was reading like a couple books a week. So I would like forget what happened in what book, and then they kind of started to blend together a little bit.
Yeah, no, for me, it's like I like reading series of Unfortunate Events as like the day after New Year's, just to get it out of the way. And it's just a fun little thing to do. It's kind of like, I know Christopher Lee did that with Lord of the Rings. He would always take 2 days off and read them all.
Yeah, I feel like I should go back to books that I read when I was younger more often. I mean, I feel like that's like the benefit of doing a show like this, or the benefit of doing a show like Unfortunate Associates, where I could...
Yeah, like how often do I get to talk about Holes or reread it or have an incentive to reread it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I get to read books that I've always meant to read, something like Holes or even Percy Jackson, which has kind of always been in my sphere interest, but like I never actually read as a kid, to, like actually rereading stuff that I liked when I was younger.
Yeah, no, especially like books like for us, I didn't know about the next book that's coming up, and I'm actually really excited to read from one of our Patreons.
Oh yeah, yeah. Are we gonna hint to that, or we'll just let them know on the?
Well, if you listen to the Patreon episode of Holes, which will be coming out soon, you'll be able to purchase it very soon for only $1. And we're also going to be doing an audio commentary that will be only exclusive on our Patreon. So if you want to watch Holes with us, you totally can.
Yeah, just a watch along. Exciting thing. I'm really hype about that.
So we actually got an email, which is a little bit of a correction, which I'm happy for. So the title of the email is Water versus Ground Physics.
All right, here we go.
So from Dominic, ground is much worse than water. What breaks the human body isn't the fact that you hit something, but is that your body went from 100 miles per hour to 0 in the span of a few microseconds. Water simply resists the movement of an object moving through it. So the deceleration would be less severe. Still not recommended. If you're really fast, since the deceleration it would occur moving through the air versus moving through the water, would still break one squishy mortal body. I believe Mythbusters actually tested this once by dropping a pig corpse from a helicopter and then giving it an X-ray. Yeah, I remember this. I remember there's also the one where
Of course they dropped a big corpse from a helicopter.
There's an episode of Mythbusters where they throw Buster out of an airplane as there's a train explosion, seeing if like an explosion will decelerate a person, and it doesn't. It just blows him to bits.
Yeah, I saw that episode. Oh, Mythbusters. So classic.
It's coming back again.
I'd
love to get Adam Savage
Jamie
on the
and Adam,
show.
you mean?
Oh my god. No, they're doing like a Mythbusters Junior now, where Adam Savage is going to be doing with kids.
Oh my god, that's adorable. Aw.
Also, there's a little more to this email as well. Also, my little take on my Sally married Gabe. It probably was not a very well thought out decision, but it was on a time crunch. Percy was already starting to get hunted by monsters, starting with the snake incident and the Cyclops that was stalking him at school. She probably came up with the idea that smell could mask his scent and found the smelliest person she could find, who was nice. Percy did say Gabe was nice at first. Then, when Gabe finally did show his true colors, she got stuck. Divorce takes a long time and can be expensive. Plus, she would have to find another person who fits the criteria of smelling, and the time gap could put Percy at risk.
Couldn't she make herself smell, though? That's another thing. She could just be smelly.
Yeah, but like naturally pungent like that?
I guess that's true.
I think it's not just, I feel like...
I thought he was just like not cleanly, like he just didn't shower a lot.
No, I think it's also like... It has to also do with your personality. I don't think Gabe was just smelly. I think he just like stunk as a human person.
In personality.
Like you have to pick like someone that's truly garbage. And I mean, we did talk about it a little bit about, Gabe did wine and diner and then he showed his true colors. But I feel like Sally Jackson could have just left him. You don't really need to divorce somebody. You can just leave someone and then file the divorce paperwork if you're in an abusive situation like she was.
Yeah, it's harder than you think, but still.
But, I see where you're coming from, and that is true. But, I mean, What Sally could easily do is, like, why doesn't she just live right next to, like, a sewage plant or, like...
Or so, yeah, I'm sure there's, like, different ways. I guess she was kind of,
She could live in, like, an
panicked.
onion farm or something.
Oh, throw back to holes.
Yeah, they're back to holes. Or, you know what, they could just live in, like, a department store with, like, the fragrance
Fragrance. Marriage. We're gathered here today.
I mean, Sally could also, like, live in, like, a department store in, like, the fragrance department. So, like, to just, like, make him smell, like, really, like, sickly sweet.
Oh, God, that would give me such a headache. I went to, like, a perfume factory when I went on, like, this school trip to France. And it gave me such a really bad headache. Like, it was, oh, my God, like, sinuses were a nightmare after I went on that trip.
You can, like, live in so many places or, like, live, like, in a zoo or some place that just always smells smelly. Entertaining podcast, by the way, from a broke computer engineer major trying not to lose his sanity. Thanks, Dominic. We really appreciate the message.
Yeah, sorry that we know nothing of physics. I never claimed I did.
We know things about, like, literary devices and, like, filmmaking and doing stuff with electricity, but we don't know physics.
And food. We both know food stuff.
Oh, yes. As a certified fat person, I can say that, yeah, I like food.
I don't know. I'm still waiting on my fat person Hogwarts letter in the mail. I don't know if I'm a certified
it's a certificate.
fat person.
It's actually like a plaque. So we actually got one iTunes review from Thalia the Ravenclaw. Amazing. This is the best podcast I've ever listened to. It is so hard to find a good Percy Jackson podcast, and this is even better than good. It's phenomenal. Zack and B are both so funny, and it's really fun to watch B read the book. Cry emoji face, happy emoji face blushing. You guys have made a Harry Potter reference in every single episode so far, and I love it. Keep up the amazing work.
You're going to like this episode.
It's hard not to talk about Harry Potter without talking about Percy Jackson, same as how it's hard to talk about, I don't know, like the emo revolution without talking about series of unfortunate events. Like, they just go hand in hand.
Do you think that goes hand in hand? I mean, I was about to disagree with you, but at the same time...
B, I'm pretty sure if you sync up, like, MCR with the series of unfortunate events movie, it's like Dark Side of the Moon experience.
It just, like, syncs. Yeah, totally. I mean, I was about to disagree with you, but then I remembered I didn't... I had not one, but two, a series of unfortunate events t-shirts that I bought at Hot Topic when I was, like, 11. So, yeah, I can't really disagree with either.
I mean, I know some people that call series of unfortunate events goth Harry Potter, so...
It is kind of goth Harry Potter. I'm not going to argue with that. I mean, it's literally gothic literature, right? I mean, that's what Daniel Handler said. Like, the difference between All the Wrong Questions...
It's noir.
And Unfortunate Events is, yeah, it's noir versus gothic. Or Victorian, I guess, but yeah, gothic.
Which is fine, and I like that, and I love all the messages we get. I mean, like I said, it's hard, like, if people get irked about us talking about Harry Potter a lot, we're trying to use it as, everyone knows what Harry Potter is. You go up to any person, ask them what their house is,
It's a good YA kind of touchstone. I mean, it also, like, was a trendsetter in, like, the certain literary devices and, like, ways it told stories, and I think it made a genre, basically.
I feel like if you have, like, a problem or a concern with, like, this, what I'd like you all to do is go get a pen and pencil, compare Percy Jackson to Harry Potter, and see how similar they are.
Yeah.
In both their environment, how they talk, and how they observe the universe.
We could reference a lot of things. I mean, we also reference, Goosebumps sometimes, Unfortunate Events. I mean, of course we're going to reference those two, because those are the two other podcasts we do. But, yeah, that's just, like, our touchstones for, like, understanding Percy Jackson. But in general, they're all part of, like, this, like, nebulous web of YA children's literature that kind of has a lot in common with each other.
We always appreciate when we get messages like this, and it's really interesting that we're not a good podcast, we're a phenomenal podcast.
That's really nice, yeah.
It's really nice.
Made me think of my dad. My dad said the word phenomenal. Like, that was his go-to, like, word. Phenomenal.
I always think of beautiful, but I always thought of how Jim Carrey always said it. B-E-A, beautiful. And that's how people know how to spell beautiful. I guarantee it. I want to thank you guys for another wonderful episode of Radio Camp Halfblood. We want to thank our two Patreon sponsors, Elliot and Sophia. And those episodes will be coming very, very shortly. I just have to send us messages if anyone wants to donate to our show. We would love it. It keeps the lights on for us, and you also get exclusive content just for you. You can follow us on Radio Camp Halfblood /patreon.com. Where can they find you, B?
You can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com, and you can find me on Twitter at bkellygorman.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Suda41, that's SUDA41. If you want to follow our show on Twitter, that is at halfblood_radio. And if you want to email the show and send us any messages, maybe you want to tell us a funny joke or have us any corrections on something we might have talked about, you can email us at radiocamphalfblood@gmail.com. Well, I'm Zach.
I got distracted, and I'm B.
And keep staying mortal. Bye.